So that is how I got my cyborg legs. Hey y'all! I don't remember how I start my videos. I'm so confused. I am recording this as both a video and also a podcast. So if you would like to hear the audio only, if you don't feel like looking at my beautiful face, if you need a break from the beauty, I would understand, and you can hear the audio only version from from your ears on my podcast. Can I bother you? Available wherever you get your podcasts. And that is also why I'm recording in my closet, because that is where I record my podcast, because I can treat it for sound. The cloth absorbs the sound. If you want to hear more about how sound works, let me know. I might make one anyway, because I love my Yeti microphone. This is not about this right now, but I love my Yeti microphone, so I might just make a video about it anyway. Anyway, so now we're up to speed. We know what's happening. This is working as both a video and a podcast. We're all together. Great. Love that for us. Just a little about me real quick. I'm an actor and a podcaster also, but I'm an actor in Austin, Texas, and I've been acting for years, like more than half my life at this point, I think, and professionally for at least 10 years. And anyway, so I just started doing background acting around 2015 or 2016, and so Alita Battle Angel was the first big project that I worked on. So that is what I'm going to talk about today. Let me buy me a drink. And because I recorded in my closet, it's already hot as hell, and I've only been in here like 5 minutes. So, in Alita Battle Angel, I am a background extra. At one point, in one of the 2 scenes that I'm seen in, I have cyborg legs, so that was a fun little thing that I'll talk about. Ouch. I'm trying to learn how to be comfortable. Wow, that's deep. But we don't have time for that, so let's move on. Alita Battle Angel is a movie, came out in 2019, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and based on a manga series also called Alita Battle Angel. And let's see, the movie stars Rosa Salazar, who I know from Parenthood. I think at the time I hadn't seen Parenthood yet, so I didn't know who she was when I was on set. But if you ever saw Parenthood, or if you just know who she is from something else. And then also in this movie is Christoph Waltz, Jennifer Connelly, Mahershala Ali, Kian Johnson. And I know Kian, well, I don't know him, but like I recognized him from Nashville because I was obsessed with that show. And Lana Condor is also in this. She has a small part, but when I was rewatching it the other day for this, for this episode, I forgot that she was in it. So when I saw her, I was like, "Is that Lana Condor?" Anyway, I was excited about it. But yeah, so it's based on a manga series from. I almost said when it was from. I think the manga series is from 1997. But what I meant to say is that the story takes place in the 26th century, which I don't believe is mentioned in the movie. I only know it because when I was like outlining this episode, I read it on Wikipedia. So it takes place in the future, and I think that's all the background we need. So, in case you're curious, the way you become a background actor is you just have to submit for it. I mean, I don't think it's, you have to fit the specs they're looking for, but it's not like it's very hard. You don't have to audition to be a background actor. If you're going to be a featured background actor, you might have to audition, but for the most part, you're not a featured background actor. You're just a background actor or an extra. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, and I'm sure there's a good chance you already knew or you figured it out from context, but background actor, extra, it's the same thing. Also, background artist is another title for it. And I personally don't think it matters very much which one you use. I kind of like background actor more just because it feels a little more accurate because you are acting in the background, whereas extra makes it sound like you are just standing there. And maybe sometimes you kind of are, but technically, actually, you're supposed to be involved in the scene, you shouldn't just be standing there because that would be really noticeable if someone's totally checked out of a scene, especially if it's something like Alita Battle Angel, where there are like cyborgs fighting and things. You might want to be, connected to the scene and paying attention to that. If you were just standing there staring at it like it was nothing, everyone watching the movie would be like, what's that guy doing in the corner? So, background acting feels like it's the more accurate description, but whatever. So, if you're interested in it, you just kind of look for the casting calls. You can check Facebook groups and Facebook pages in your area, like specifically for acting. There are probably email lists. It all depends on where you live, really. In Austin, Texas, if that's where you are, some of the companies who cast background actors the most, that I've seen anyway, are Beth Sepko Casting is actually where I got this Alita Battle Angel. It's Beth Sepko Casting Third Coast Extras, I believe is the full title of it. And then I've also been doing a lot of work through Brock Allen Casting here in Austin. And then, oh god, there's another one who I've never worked with before. Michael Druck Casting. That's the other one I'm thinking of. And of course there are others. Those are just the three that I've seen the most personally. No shade to anyone else who's listening to this who works for another casting company that I didn't list. So, basically, that's just how you do it. They put out a call for what they're looking for. In this case, for Alita, they were looking for, I didn't look up the call, which would have been smart to do, but in the emails that I was going through, it was saying the look they wanted was sort of like punk biker style sort of looks. So they wanted a lot of dark colors, and if you had colorful hair, if you had tattoos, if you had when they also ask you to bring your own clothing, not always, but a lot of the time they'll ask you to supply your clothes because you are more likely to have clothes that fit you than they might. So in this case, they asked us to bring uh dark colored clothing, lots of blacks and dark colors. And then if we had anything with like chains or large black boots or fishnet tights or anything like that, um, denim jackets was another thing. Chains, I might have already said that. So basically, the kind of look they were going for, anything with studs. And luckily, that's not like it's not like it doesn't like perfectly describe my wardrobe, but dark colors, and I definitely have plenty of things with studs on them. So I was like, yeah, I can bring stuff. Um, like I said, this was my first time. It wasn't my first time background acting, but it was my first time on a big project, like a big project of this scale, directed by Robert Rodriguez. And if you don't know who that is, he is a director. I think he still lives here in Austin. His, at any rate, Troublemaker Studios, his studio company, is here in Austin. And Spy Kids is one of his movies, and I remember that because I like grew up on that movie. It's one of my favorite things ever. And he's also done a bunch of other stuff, and I feel like a total idiot for blanking right now and not being able to think of any of it. But you can use the internet. And there's a good chance you already know who he is because he's not a small name. So, anyway, but if you don't know, I don't judge you. We don't all know everything. So, anyway, it was my first time on a big thing. And so I was a little nervous about messing it up. I don't get nervous very often, as I have said in past episodes of Can I Bother You? But in this case, I had basically no idea at all of what was going to happen. And because it was such a big movie, it was very like, don't tell anyone about it, like no cell phones, no pictures. And that's a thing that I've always known, but it's not a thing I've ever had to actually deal with. So knowing it's a thing that goes on in our industry and then having to sign NDAs and stuff, and well, it's sort of like if you're driving and there's a cop behind you and you know you're not doing anything wrong, but you're still like, oh god, they're gonna pull me over. Like, if they pull me over, are they gonna find something? And you know they're not gonna find anything, but you're still worried about it. That's kind of how I felt. I'm like, I am not gonna have any problem following these rules, but what if I'm not following the rules? So anyway, I'm like, I'm not trying to get fired. I don't want to get blacklisted. So I was a little nervous about it, but the first thing that had to happen was the fitting. So I submitted for this project November 20th of 2016, and then I had a fitting a couple days later. I took some of my own clothes, like I said, and the first thing that happened, the first thing that happened is I had to find my way there. So I make it to Troublemaker Studios. It has a lot of land. It's a couple of giant buildings and a couple of big parking lots. And they luckily were very clear, they being the casting people, that's who I've been corresponding with. And they typically are. Casting people have been very good to me so far. They're always very detailed in their instructions, which I appreciate, and I'm sure that they do for their benefit as much as ours. They don't want us to mess up either. They're hiring us to do a job. They want us to make them look good. So, I need another drink. So I find my way there, and their instructions are like, you're gonna come up to the gate. If it's closed, push the button, and the guard will let you in. Your name is on the list, and then you'll pull in and go to the left parking lot, and then you'll go to the building on the right. And like I said, very detailed, very very step by step. So I go into the building where they have the fitting going on, and I don't remember this part too much. I'm kind of fuzzy on it. I'm not watching myself in the video monitor, so now I'm checking and I'm like, "Oh god, am I like That's kinda what happens to me, so I'm trying to elongate. The listeners don't see what's happening. I'm sorry, listeners. I'm I'm not sitting straight. That's the short version. Anyway, also, y'all, if I ever talk too fast, let me know. Like, at this point, you can't let me know while I'm recording this, but if I talk too fast ever, let me know. That is kind of how I speak, and I try to remember to slow down, but I don't always succeed. So anyway, first I remember before I even walked into the building, the sign-in, they were outside. There was a long table outside, and at least a couple of people sitting out there with all the paperwork. I remember, I think, like, paperweights and stuff on the papers because it was windy, and so they gave me all the paperwork I need to sign, to get paid and the NDA, and, that was probably about it. And then they send me off to wardrobe, and the only real memory I have of that is that everyone, I don't wanna say they seemed frazzled, but there were a lot of us that they needed to dress, and so they did have to, like, try to cycle through us, and they weren't rude or anything, but it was just very much like the energy was higher. There we go, that's a way to phrase it. The energy was higher, and the only other thing I remember is one of my shirts. Oh, and actually, since I'm in my closet, oh, I'll cut this little part out of the podcast since no one can see it anyway, but one of my shirts, it was a polo shirt that was, like, primarily black with, sort of, like, blue and gold diamonds on it and, like, a checkered grid. I don't really know how to describe it, but anyway, it was a shirt that I didn't hate, and, and they asked if they could cut the collar off, and I was like, "Yeah, that's fine," because even though I didn't hate the shirt, I also didn't wear it too much. I think I wore it more in high school, and at this point, I was now not in high school anymore. It's not important how old I was, but I was not in high school anymore, so I wasn't really wearing it anymore. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, if you wanna cut off that collar, go for it." And I actually kinda like it more without the collar, so that worked out, and then they ended up not using it in the movie. So, I don't think that they used any of my wardrobe in the movie. I was in I was in 3 scenes, and I can be seen in 2 of them, and scenes isn't even the right word. Technically, I was in 2 scenes, just one of them I was in 2 places, but in one of those places you can't see me. We'll get there, okay. So anyway, and that's basically what happens at every fitting. If they ask you to bring your clothes, I didn't know that this was gonna be about just being an extra in general, because I have plenty of other stories about that, but whatever, it's fine. If you have to bring your own clothes, you bring that, they check out whatever looks you got going on, and if it works, they okay it, and if it doesn't, they provide you with other clothes. And it's basically the same at every single fitting you go to. So, that was the first thing I had to do with it, and then it was a couple weeks before filming. We filmed the first day that I filmed was December 2nd. Yeah, so day 1 of filming for me was December 2nd. I remember I had been, like, completely allergy-ridden the days leading up to it. I was just a gross mess, and I felt terrible, and I kept thinking, "Man, I hope this stops because I don't wanna be on set, like, sneezing every 5 seconds." And I was like, "Where am I gonna keep all the used tissues? Like, we have to fix this." And, luckily, I don't know what happened. It was a miracle. I got there, and I used my nose spray one more time, and then I was fine the rest of the day. My call time was 4:30, so nose spray at 4:30, and then I was fine the rest of the time. And that was good because it ended up being a 16-hour day. So I get there at 4:30, finally able to breathe again, and, I'm a little nervous again because I don't know what's happening. I think they gave instructions, but these were much more loose. It was basically like, "Show up, park, check in, and then stuff will happen." And I'm like, "Okay, stuff will happen. That's vague. We love that." So I go in feeling unprepared because I have no idea where I'm supposed to go or who I'm supposed to talk to. And there are people there to guide you. Typically, PAs do that, and I'm sure they did that day. My memory is really fuzzy on this part too, honestly. But that's what PAs are for, and they tend to be pretty good at their job because PAs tend to be responsible people. This is not exclusive. There are exceptions, but in general. So, you might remember this kind of from my conversation with Donna Rice a few episodes ago. If you want to hear more about what PAs do, you can check that out because the answer is basically everything. So, I remember going through hair and makeup, and I think for hair, she basically just kinda, like, tried to gel it into a mess, and I was like, "Okay." But anyway, she did something to my hair, and then makeup tried to, like, make me look dirty because in this future place, we're all, I don't know, dirty looking, I guess. So, I just remember them, like, patting my arms and hands and my face and neck with, like, dirt stuff. And I got lucky because my wardrobe, I remember thinking my pants were really cute, but I can't really remember what they look like. And I did get a very thin shirt though with a very low cut, like, scoop neck. And so that wasn't great, but I did get a black sort of knit cardigan thing. It was very long, very feminine, and it kept me warm, and I'm grateful because it was December. And although December isn't always all that cold in Texas, it was pouring rain that night and it got to the low 40s. So we were all shivering the whole night. It was quite a bonding experience. I'll talk more about that in a little bit though. So the first thing, it's like I don't know, the 25th thing we probably did that day. After wardrobe, makeup, hair, we did lunch then, I think, because there were so many of us, it took so long just to get through that first process. Then we did lunch, and we were waiting for the sun to go down anyway, because it's an exterior shoot, so we want the sun to go down. It's a night shoot. And then they take us to set, we get some props and stuff, and we walk. It's a very, very large set. They have a lot of alleys and streets made and buildings and everything. And a lot of it was almost in the pitch black because they only lit the part that we were filming. So we walk through the darkness to the street where everything is being filmed, and I'm just checking everything out. And I remember the alleys so vividly, and there's a little taxi in it. If you haven't seen Alita, there's a yellow taxi that's got two wheels on the back and one little wheel on the front. And I remember this taxi so vividly. And no one was even driving it that night, I don't think. But it's very clearly, like, imprinted in my memory. So they start placing us along the street where they want us. I end up standing next to this woman. She's probably around my age, and I cannot remember her name. I remember enjoying talking to her, and we were Facebook friends for a while, I think, but one of us unfriended the other, and I have no idea what her name is. But anyway, she was very nice, and within the little scene that we were playing with each other when the camera was rolling, I just remember our conversation revolved around Dr. Pepper, which isn't all that surprising, since most of my conversations revolve around Dr. Pepper. So, available for sponsorship, Dr. Pepper, by the way. I am here for you, as you have been here for me. See, that's the kind of quality content you'll get in a sponsorship, Dr. Pepper. That's right. That's right. It is getting so hot in my closet, and I am running out of water. I might have to take a break to go get more water. Anyway, so yes, we have our little chat about Dr. Pepper. I remember at one point someone nearby was whispering, and I could hear them. And we're rolling, and they call cut, and the guy who is, like, instructing us, I don't know what his title is. I think it might have been something like second assistant director. I'm not totally sure, but he was the one who was telling us background actors, like, where to be and what we might be doing, and pairing us off or grouping us or whatever. So they called cut, and he had to shout, like, no talking, and I was like, oh, awkward. But we go on. Robert Rodriguez seemed very much, professional. I didn't talk to him. I didn't work with him because so far I'm having mixed experiences. So in general, it always depends on the director. Every person is different. But so far, most of the directors I've seen working on bigger projects don't typically handle the background actors. They focus on everything else. They've already got plenty of other things to be thinking about. They don't also, like, tell the background actors what to do. That's what the other person is for. The other assistant second director or whatever. At one point, we cut and they're resetting lights or something. And instead of taking us back, I'm trying to remember where the holding area was. I can remember where it was on day 2, but I don't remember where it was on my first day there. I just remember at one point, while they're resetting, because it's so cold and wet, they send a bunch of us who are on one part of the street into... Oh, I haven't told you what part of the movie this is. Sorry. So, if you've seen the movie, or if you are about to watch the movie, this is about an hour and 10 minutes in, sort of. And so, spoilers, y'all. Watch out. Spoilers for Alita. I should have put that at the beginning, but I mean, I hope you would have assumed. Although, you know what they say about people who assume? they might be wrong or they might be right. Who knows? But this happens around the hour 10 mark, and it's when Alita has just been in a big fight inside of a bar, and she basically gets herself ripped apart. And, well, that sounds victim blamey. Someone rips her apart, and Christoph Waltz, who is gorgeous and looks just as good in person, he carries her out. Although I don't think he was carrying her when we filmed this. He wasn't carrying Rosa Salazar. He was carrying, like, a dummy or something. And, Kean Johnson walks out with him, and us background actors are all crowded around outside of the bar, and they walk past us outside. But before that, that's what's up. My bad, my bad, my bad. I'm talking about something else. The part I was just talking about where the other background actor and I were talking about Dr. Pepper, we were standing along that street, which now, if you've seen the movie, you can envision in your head. We were standing along that street, and that part where we were having that conversation is when Alita and Kean Johnson's character, whose name I should have written down, but I didn't, so let's move on. When the two of them are walking down the street to that bar to have the whole fight, we're standing out there, and they walk past us. So at one point, when they need to put us somewhere in a holding-like area, they put us behind that wall. The doors open. I don't think all of them open, but a lot of the doors are open. Of course, the stores and things weren't real, but they were real spaces to walk into. And so we were in this little area, I don't know, maybe, like, it wasn't too small, but it wasn't very big either. I'm so bad at, like, feet estimating. Like, I can envision miles pretty well, but, like, for feet, I'm like, is it 800 feet? Is it 20 feet? I don't know. Who knows? Could be anything. But it was probably, I'm gonna go ahead and say it was, like, 20 by 30. It was a rectangular room. I bet it was smaller than that. And it's just, like, exposed wood, and because it's not gonna be used for anything, it's just a space. They have some, like, storage stuff in there, and so that's kinda where they put us to keep us out of the rain. So they have us sitting back there for a while. We weren't supposed to have our cell phones, which I think I mentioned earlier, and I was worried about that because I wasn't gonna leave my phone in my car, and I didn't. Originally, the email said that they were going to take phones and they'd return them to us at the end of the shoot. Luckily, no one did that, for which I am grateful. And I kept my phone on me, but I think at the time my phone was less capable. This was 2016. We were filming in 2016, which I might have mentioned earlier. So 3 years before this movie even came out. And I don't think my phone was capable enough to really do anything to keep me all that entertained. I think I had Facebook, and that was basically it. So we were sitting back there, basically in the dark, just chilling and waiting. Eventually, it was time to do the scene that I was just talking about, where Christoph exits that building with Alita in his arms. And so for that part, that is where I am front and center. I can be clearly seen. My face is right there. And I did not see the movie when it first came out because I am poor, perpetually. And the day it came out, I had people messaging me. A lot of people I am friends with on Facebook. A lot of people I do not know. Some people in HEB, both customers and employees, would stop me and be like, "This is gonna sound weird, but are you in a movie?" And I'm like, "No, I mean, it doesn't sound weird, and yes, I am." And so because that was happening, so many people were like, "Hey, are you in Alita?" I was like, "Okay, I must be very visible." And I had no idea what the frame was when we shot that. I knew that there was a good chance I'd be in the shot, but I'm not looking at the camera. I mean, I am right now. But when you film something, you typically don't look at the camera when you're acting. So I didn't look at the camera. I didn't see where it moved or where it might be pointing. I didn't know what size lens they had on it, so I didn't know where the focus was or how wide the shot was or anything. So to hear everyone, or to have everyone reaching out to me, I'm like, "Oh, I must be, like, super visible. That's exciting." Shout out to my friends Jordan and William, hey, who are friends of the podcast and who've listened for a long time. They sent me, I think, a Visa gift card or something so that I could see the movie because they are such good friends. So thank you, y'all. So that is how I eventually saw the movie, and I saw myself on the big screen. I was like, "Oh shoot!" When it came up, I was like, "Oh god, I'm like right there." And also this was way pre-COVID, so you had to go see it in the movie theater when it came out. So it was hard to miss me, even if I hadn't been as centered in the frame as I ended up being. It would have been hard to miss me because it's so big. Anyway, the only other things I remember about the night are the rain. Like, legit, that's what clouds everything. And it's also why I handle the cold so much better now than I used to, because I just think it's not the night that you were rainy when you were rainy. It's not the night that you were wet and shivering for 16 hours. So if it's not that night, you can handle this cold. That's kind of that's how I got through the winter storm in 2021 here in Texas. I just kept thinking, you're not filming for 16 hours in the rain, so you can do this. Another little memory about that night is, at one point they did take us to a different holding area. It was a little tent, and they gave us warmers, like, I don't know, some sort of a warming mechanism. And I think it might have been propane heated or something. And I was kind of like, should this be in the tent? But so we're all trying to crowd around it because we're all so cold. And I had my feet like I was holding my feet towards it to warm my feet up. And at one point, this girl sitting next to me was like, I think your shoe is melting. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, what's up? And she was like, did you not smell it? And I'm like, everything in my face is frozen. No, I didn't smell it. My nose is frozen. So anyway, that's the only other memory I have of that night. Getting home at almost 8 in the morning is the last thing I really remember about that. So that was day 1. Day 2, hydration, y'all, so important. Anyway, so day 2, we're on day 2. Uh, if you are still watching this video, you and I must be enjoying each other's company, so maybe you should subscribe. But day 2, my call time was 7:30 for that day, so I was like, oh, good, it's not an overnight. I'm so excited. And I got there at 7:30, and I think so on this day for this scene happens about 15 minutes into the movie. And it's when Christoph Waltz and Jennifer Connelly we're learning more about their history together, and they're walking along this, like, it's like a bridge, I think, in the movie. It looks like a bridge, and there's a marketplace, and there's stuff off in the distance and stuff kind of below the bridge, and that's kind of the best I'm going to be able to describe it to you. And it's just a walk and talk. It's the whole thing. And so we filmed that in only a couple hours. That went pretty fast because Jennifer Connelly and Christoph Waltz are pros, and this took place outdoors. We're filming this one outdoors also. So the sun was the lighting. I don't remember how much other lighting they had set up, but they were mostly working with the sun. So setting up new shots didn't take as long because it was mostly just the camera. And this was not green screen. If you were watching it, everything that was practical was just the bridge thing that they were walking on that the rest of us are standing on. I'm at a little shop, I guess, with a bunch of vase things, like giant vase things, and I'm talking to a blonde woman sort of to the left. When it's the big wide shot, I'm to the left of the screen. So this day is the day I have robot legs, cyborg legs, excuse me, and I don't feel like you can really tell all that well in the shot. But I didn't know I was gonna have those. They didn't know I was gonna have those. A lot of decisions get made day of, and I don't know how it ended up me being the one with the cyborg legs. But when I was checking in and getting wardrobe done and everything, at one point, I guess they decided they needed someone with cyborg legs. So they were like, you. And I got put in, they were basically gray sweats, and they had like little green dots on them in strategic places. And so originally I was wearing pants, but so they had to put me in wardrobe, had to put me in shorts so that the legs could be seen. And I was also given this little belt thing. And so it's like a belt that goes around my waist, and then on the back of the belt there was this plastic rectangle that's supposed to serve as like the power source for the cyborg legs. And I feel like you also can't see, well, no, you can see that more clearly, and it kind of bothered me because it covered my ass, my perfectly shaped ass, thank you very much. This big ass box is covering it, and so I was like, man, but that's alright. And then I was wearing a blue shirt that also had a very low neck. I don't know why they kept giving me very low scoop necks, but they did. Anyway, so they put me in those sweats, and they were a little tighter than sweats. Honestly, they weren't as tight as I would have expected. I would have expected like skin tight, and they definitely rested against my legs pretty well. But I'm not complaining. I'm not like, man, I wish they'd been tighter. Let's move on. So they give me those, and I remember today, day 2, the holding area is inside, and at one point we were sitting in there for ever. I'll get to that though. First, I think we're only in there for a little while, and someone takes me to the motion capture area. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what it's actually called, but it's basically a green screen, and there's a bunch of cameras pointed at the mark, and I had to go stand on the mark and essentially strike some poses. It wasn't hard at all. I was basically standing there. They asked me to bend my legs a couple times. I had to like pick my leg up and rest it on a box so that they could see it bent. And in total, it was maybe 5 minutes. I wasn't there long at all. And it was just to, I guess, they explained to me what it was, but this was 40 years ago, so it was 6 years ago. Oh my god, it was 6 years ago. Jeez. 5.5, but who's counting? But I remember they explained it to me. They were very nice, but they were also, just doing their job, so I don't think that they were very interested in educating me on the ways, and I don't blame them. Trying to get in and out. We got a movie to make. So that was a fun little experience. It was really weird being in front of because the green screen was at least on 3 sides of me. I remember that much. I don't think there was a 4th wall, but I remember for sure 3, and then the box that I had to put my leg up on was also a green screen, and it was just weird to see so much green because there are also huge walls. This is a huge, like, warehouse thing. It's a very big building, so the walls inside of it are also very big. And I just remember it was very striking and very vibrant and very exciting, even though I was only there for 5 seconds. So that is how I got my cyborg legs. Then they take us out to that bridge and they place us where they place us. Behind my giant vase things uh, are where I hid my water bottle and my jacket a couple times. Wardrobe was also very nice and would take jackets from us in between takes sometimes and distribute them when the take was over so we wouldn't freeze. Even though it was daytime and the sun was out, it was still pretty cold. And like I said, that went by pretty fast. So that was the first half of the day. Then they put us in new costumes. I don't remember what I wore, and that's basically because it's not on camera. I only remember these 2 outfits because they're on camera, really. That first one, the nighttime shoot that I was talking about, I didn't even remember how much I liked the pants until I was sitting here talking to you about them because I don't see them in the movie. I just remembered it. It just came back to me. But anyway, I feel like this sounded like a weird brag. Oh, I just remembered it. I don't know what to tell you. Just came back to me. What am I doing? Back to where I was. Where was I? Okay, so yes, the first half of the day is done. Wardrobe change. I'm sure we did lunch or something. And I think this is the part where we were sitting and holding forever. And the first day that I was there, I'm sure there was plenty of waiting, but this is the day where I remember thinking, oh God, I'm going to die here. Because although I know and had already experienced that acting is a lot of hurry up and wait, up until this point, I was usually one of the actors who had lines and things to do, so I never had to wait for as long as I was on this day. And also everything I had worked on up until that point was smaller projects, so there was probably less to wait around for anyway. But on this day, I just remember sitting there waiting forever and thinking, man, I didn't know what hurry up and wait was. But eventually, they take us into the bar because now this is an interior of the bar. I'm really curious to see how out of order they shot. That's always what I'm interested to see because as an actor, I I'm just curious about how other actors keep up with their character's arc and their emotional arc, not just the actual plot points, but emotionally how you get to where you need to be in a scene. Because if on day one you're shooting some heavy scene with lots of tears, and then on day two you're shooting, I don't know, something entirely different where they you were day one you were breaking up, and day two y'all are just meeting and falling in love, and I'm like, you gotta remember how you felt in that first day when you get back there eventually. Anyway, it's a whole thing, and it varies by thing, and that's why I'm so by project, and that's why I'm so interested in how other people deal with it. Oh my god. I'm running out of water, but I'm like, don't give up yet, AJ, you're so close. So I basically have nothing to report for this part because I don't remember it. I really don't. Even when it was happening, I thought, I'm not going to remember this because I was standing there in the corner. I couldn't even see the cameras. So I was like, I'm not going to be in frame. I don't think I'll be in frame for any of this. And I wasn't even totally sure what they were shooting. Like, I had no idea what was going on, and I don't remember it at all. There's a chance it's the part that leads up to the big fight where Alita gets ripped apart, but I'm having trouble remembering Rosa Salazar and Kian Johnson in that scene when we were filming. And since that scene is all about them, I'm kind of like, maybe that's not what it was. But anyway, I did get to see the inside of the bar, and it was very pretty. The bar itself, like, it had like a pretty blue backlight or something, and it was all glass and mirrors. It sounds like a regular bar, I know, but it was pretty, okay? Just trust me. And that's basically day 2. I don't remember how long we filmed for that day. I just remember it wasn't as long as the first day I did, and I was grateful. Oh, I forgot to say when I was talking to you, thank you for letting me talk to you. When I was talking about the outdoor scene on the bridge thing and I was saying how it's not green screen, in case you're curious about green screen, let me know and I can talk about that because I do green screen work on my YouTube channel. If you're watching the video, you might already know that. Hey. And, while it might not always be perfect, I am pretty happy with what I manage in my tiny space with just my computer and just me doing everything by myself. I'm pretty proud of what I can do on my own, considering I had no idea how to do it when I tried it the first time. So if you're curious about learning how that kinda works, green screen outside is it's easy in some ways and harder in a lot of other ways. So, anyway, that's really a whole 'nother thing. So if you were interested in hearing about it, let me know and I'd totally tell you about it. But back to where I was. I finished day 2, and that was basically it. The only other thing that really happened Alita related is I think that night they sent me a call time for the next day, and I was like, "No, no, I didn't say I was gonna work that next day." And I remember someone asked me, I don't actually remember it, but I wrote it in an email to them, so that's how I remember it. I by reading. Someone asked me the day of while I was on set on day 2. They asked if I was available for the next day, and I said I wasn't. And then they being the casting people now, emailed me a call time, and I was like, no, no, I can't be there. I already told them. But I think that was the last thing. And I don't blame them for getting a little mixed up because it's a lot of people to keep track of. There are like hundreds of extras. So like on any given project, there might be that many people. So it's hard to keep track of who can do what sometimes. But anyway, I think that that's basically it. Yeah, like I said, it was my first time background acting. I didn't hate it, but I was also kind of like, I don't really want to do this again. I felt like I'd already gotten as much as I could out of it because a good reason to background act is if you want to be in this industry. You can be on a set and you can see other people working and you can listen to them talk and you can learn. That is the biggest reason to be a background actor. Um, Unless you just like it, in which case that's also fine too. But for the most part, if you want to be a background actor because there's such long days on set and there's so much waiting, it's because you want to be on set, so you want to learn. And from this production, I kind of felt like I learned as much as I could from it anyway. And I wasn't sure how many other productions were similar to it because I didn't get a whole lot of time on set. And when I did, I was often so far away from the action that I didn't get to hear a whole lot of what was going on. So I didn't pick up too much information from this particular shoot. And so at the time, I was like, I don't want to do this again. Now I am background acting again, and I do enjoy it, but that's because I know what I can do while I'm waiting. When I'm not able to eavesdrop or watch other people and learn from them, I know what I can be doing in the downtime. Whereas for Alita, it was like no cell phones. No, it's like I'm not trying to like get sued or something. So I didn't want to pull my cell phone out or anything, and I didn't take a book or anything. Now I know what I can do, so I don't mind it as much. Okay, I basically forgot where I was. But I'll just say that overall I had a really good experience on Alita, and I was very glad that most people were at least not rude. I didn't blame them for not necessarily being all that friendly all the time because it's it's a lot of work. And I mean, like I said on that first day, I was there for 16 hours. The crew got there before me and left after me. So, like, who knows how long they were there, you know? So, I don't blame them for being less than friendly, but no one was actively mean, and that's kind of it's a low bar, but it's mine. I will say though that I realized when I was outlining this that there is a guy, he worked I recently was a background actor on Walker, and he's working there now, and he worked on Alita, and he was a PA on Alita, and now he's the one who's telling the, background actors what to do and where to be and stuff. And I remember that he was my favorite person on Alita, that he was actually kind and more informative than anyone else, and again, I don't blame anyone else, they have a lot going on, but he was very, very kind on Alita, and he is just as kind now on Walker, and I'm like, "I can see how you have risen through the ranks, like, you seem like a really good guy who is capable of doing his job and doing it in a kind way." So, but I just wanted to say that because it was something that I made the connection. It was really weird when I was outlining this. I was like, who was there that I liked?" And then my brain was like, "Wait, do you remember his face?" And anyway, IMDb confirmed it. So, okay, I think that's everything. Let me glance at my notes again. Yeah, I guess that's all I got. Thanks for hanging out with me. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe for me, please. I would really appreciate that. And if you did you enjoy hearing about this? Because if you did, like, let me know in the comments. Right, tell me more or something to let me know that you liked this kind of story, and I can tell you more about other work that I've done. And because, like I said, I love talking about myself. So if you like it too, you let me know. Also, places that I talk about myself: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at AJReyesF13. You can hang out with me there. I love your company over there as well. And if you'd like to support me monetarily, you can do that on Venmo or PayPal, also at AJReyesF13. And thanks again. I'll see you next week.